All right, well, good morning or good afternoon. I think we're all ready. My name is Lamar Thorpe, Mayor of the City of Antioch, and we're here today for some updates related to our efforts to reduce crime, in particular violent crime in the City of Antioch. So today we're excited to share some critical news that impacts our city's health and well-being. Last year, I announced a major step in the City of Antioch's efforts to implement police reform and improve police presence throughout our city. This pre-reform, before reform was a popular term here, sought to support the Department of Justice through the program called the National Public Safety Partnership. This was a self-imposed reform led by Antioch Police Captain Anthony Moorfield of the Antioch Police Department. And so, of course, we're very proud and grateful for Captain Moorfield's leadership as he's led this department specifically around this mission. This collaboration between the police department and the Department of Justice was a bold gesture that signified to many of us a strong commitment to change by the Antioch Police Department, just as important as lowering crime. Our police reform measures are working, and they're making our city safer. Last week, the Antioch Police Department executed a key violent crime warrant sweep operation, or as I like to call it, Operation We're Not Messing Around with Anybody. And we're not. As a result of this warrant sweep, we've made 23 high-level felony arrests, ranging from murder, assault with deadly weapons, sexual assault, all the way on down to robbery. These individuals who have committed these are the individuals who have committed some of the worst crimes imaginable throughout the Bay Area, and in other ways, different parts of our country. As is the case, many of these individuals are not Antioch residents. I've lived in Antioch for 10 years. And before my family and I chose to cement our roots in Antioch from our small town in Maryland, Antioch had and continues to have a reputation for being safe harbor for individuals who commit crimes in other parts of the Bay Area, our state, and throughout our country. Today, I'm pleased to announce that last week's operation and our ability to quickly utilize our federal law enforcement partners at a moment's notice marked the beginning of the end of Antioch being a place where violent people can come and hide out. So don't even bother to come here. Last week, Mayor London Green and I had a meeting in San Francisco. Most of our conversation revolved around this very issue of cross-jurisdictional crime. We are committed to ensuring we work collaboratively, particularly through our respective law enforcement agencies, to ensure individuals suspected of these crimes aren't finding safe haven in our respective cities. That being said, as we work to roll these types of individuals out of Antioch, let me also send a clear message to residents who provide safe haven to individuals who have committed crimes. What you're doing is committing a crime, and we're not messing around with you either. You will be held accountable for aiding and abetting suspected individuals of offenses. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Chief Ford and then Lieutenant Fortner a little later to highlight some of the operations that took place last week and to answer any questions. I see some of my friends from Spanish language television are here, so no me olvidé de ustedes. Hoy nos complace compartir noticias que afectan la ciudad, la salud y el bienestar de nuestra ciudad. El año pasado anunció un paso importante en los esfuerzos de la ciudad de Antioch para implementar reformas policiales y mejorar la presencia policial en toda la ciudad. Esta reforma buscó el apoyo del Departamento de Justicia de los Estados Unidos y a través de un programa llamado la Asociación Nacional de la Seguridad Pública. Esta fue una reforma dirigida por el capitán Anthony Morfield del Departamento de Policía de Antioch. Esta colaboración entre el Departamento de Policía y el Departamento de Justicia fue significado compromiso de cambio por el parte de nuestro Departamento de Policía, y igualmente importante para reducir el crimen en nuestra ciudad. Nuestras medidas de reforma policial están funcionando y están haciendo nuestra ciudad más segura para todos los miembros de nuestra comunidad. La semana pasada el Departamento de Policía ejecutó una operación de arresto por de delitos violentos, o como me gusta llamar, operación No Estamos Jugando con Nadie. Y no estamos. Como resultado de esta operación, hemos realizado 23 arrestos, 23 de los delitos graves del alto nivel, que van desde haciendo violencia con una arma mortal y agresión sexual hasta el robo. Estos son personas que han cometido algunos de los peores crímenes violentos en nuestras comunidades y en toda la bahía de San Francisco. Y muchas de estas personas no son residentes de Antioch. He vivido en Antioch 10 años. Y antes de que mi familia y yo decidimos cementar nuestras raíces aquí en Antioch, Antioch tenía y sigue teniendo la reputación de ser un puerto seguro para las personas que han cometido delitos en otras partes de la área de la bahía, en nuestro estado y en todos los Estados Unidos. Hoy me complace anunciar que la operación de la semana pasada y nuestra capacidad de utilizar rápidamente a nuestros socios federales, el comienzo del fin de que Antioch sea un lugar donde las personas violentas pueden venir y esconderse. Entonces, ni siquiera te molestes venir a nuestra ciudad si estás involucrado en el crimen, porque te vamos a encontrar, te vamos a arrestar y la fiscal general lo procesará. La semana pasada la alcaldesa de San Francisco, London Breed, y yo tuvimos una reunión en el ayuntamiento de San Francisco. La mayor parte del tema de nuestra conversación fue la delincuencia transjurisdiccional, y estamos comprometidos a garantizar que trabajemos en colaboración, particularmente a través de nuestras agencias policiales, para garantizar que las personas sospechosas de delitos no encuentren refugio seguro en nuestras respectivas ciudades. Dicho esto, trabajamos para sacar a estos tipos de personas de Antioch. Mientras trabajamos de sacar estos tipos de personas en Antioch, déjame también enviar un mensaje claro a los residentes de Antioch que brinden refugio a las personas que han cometido estos delitos. Lo que están haciendo es un crimen, y tampoco no vamos a dejar que ustedes no tengan lo que están haciendo es un crimen, y no vamos a dejar que hagan eso en nuestras comunidades. Y son los responsables que hacen el refugio a las personas que han cometido crímenes en nuestras comunidades, van a ser responsables, y no los vamos a sentar aquí haciendo nada. Vamos a proteger a nuestras comunidades. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Chief Ford to talk a little more about the operation.
Thank you, Mayor, for the very nice introduction. All right, good morning. I'm Chief Stephen Ford with the Antioch Police Department, and thank you for your time and attention this morning. So the high points of this past week operation are as follows, as already mentioned as well. Our violent crime operation Warren Street deployed 3 teams of 10 fugitive apprehension members. The operation spanned 5 days and covered 33 locations. 23 felony warrant arrests were effected, ranging from murder, assault with a deadly weapon, sexual assault, and robbery, as well as 4 firearms recovered. This operation represents a strong collaborative effort between multiple agencies and resources, illustrating the ongoing commitment by the Antioch Police Department to reduce and mitigate violent crime. To be clear, the City of Antioch welcomes the enjoyment of our parks, restaurants, and amenities. However, I send a very strong message to those engaging in violent crime and or those who seek refuge in the City of Antioch. If you engage in unlawful violent activity, you will be vigorously sought out and met with the fullest extent of the law. Our goal is to facilitate a safe environment rooted in meaningful police-community relationships, and violent activity will not be tolerated to any extent. I'd be remiss if I didn't give credit where credit is due. First and foremost, a special thanks to Captains Moorfield and Schisnius, who solidified the relationship with the U.S. Department of Justice National Public Safety Partnership and the external agencies that supported this very successful operation. Those agencies are inclusive of the U.S. Marshals, the FBI, the ATF, the DEA, Contra Costa County Probation Department, the Department of Homeland Security, and the California Department of Corrections. In addition, I sincerely thank Lieutenant Fortner, Lieutenant Bittner, and Sergeants Cook and Stenger for their collective leadership in spearheading this operation. Moreover, I thank the members of the Antioch Police Department, inclusive of our Violent Crimes Unit, Special Operations Unit, our Gang Unit, and our crime analysts, who provided their high-level expertise and institutional knowledge to identify our city's most prominent felony fugitive offenders. This was a true team effort, and I'm grateful for your collective commitment to public safety. So with that, I'll conclude, and I'll turn it over to Lieutenant Fortner, our officer in charge of our Investigations Bureau, for additional commentary. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Ford. Thank you, Mayor. Real briefly, good morning. I'm Lieutenant Fortner with the Investigations Bureau. To speak briefly on what the Mayor and the Chief has already gone over, the Antioch Police Department has been working closely with our federal partners to enhance our capacity to reduce violent crime and improve public safety. To speak briefly on the organized collaboration and focused research and analysis that took place before the operation, the Antioch Investigations Bureau, which consists of the Violent Crimes Unit and the Special Operations Unit, the Gang Unit, and the Crime Analysis, took lead, and in collaboration with the Marshal Service, California Department of Corrections, and the Contra Costa County Probation Office, identified and gathered data on every subject in Antioch that had an active arrest, bench, RAMI, or probation violation warrant. Next, the warrants were organized by year, 2020, 2021, and 2022, and then plotted on a map for location. They were geolocated. Afterwards, the warrants were screened for violent criminal acts, aggravated assaults, firearms or weapons used, gang violence, sexual assaults, and then other Part 1 violent crimes, all felony level violations. The final report surfaced subjects with the most recent probable cause warrants and wants, year-to-date 2022, for the most violent crimes, felonies, located in or associated with the City of Antioch. In this effort, we created a product for the task force teams to reference so they might hone in on the most dangerous criminals who cause the most harm in our communities. Ultimately, the research team identified more than 125 targets that were either located in the City of Antioch or committed crimes in the City of Antioch. There was a nexus. To close, that information was collated and some new software technology that we're using to deploy to the teams in a highly organized manner that facilitated a common operating picture and communication. Using that application, the teams were able to deploy to their locations and safely take into custody the subjects that were the targets of the operation. I'll also add that there were no reportable uses of force in taking each subject into custody that were wanted for these violent crimes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lieutenant Fortner, for that. Thank you, Chief Ford, for that. And really thanks to all of our men and women in law enforcement here in the City of Antioch, and those agencies that they collaborated with to ensure that we make our city much more safer than what it was yesterday. And so we continue to do that, and I know that these are going to be ongoing efforts in a different, limited way, but the message is very clear. If you come to Antioch after you've committed a crime, you will be found, you will be arrested, and you will ultimately be prosecuted. And again, I can't reiterate that message enough, and I can't reiterate the message to people who create these safe harbors for those who have committed crimes elsewhere. You will be responsible for this as well, and we will hold you accountable. That being said, we're going to close this and open it up to a few questions, because we're running short on time since we started a little late, but we are more than happy to entertain a few questions. Yes, ma'am, from KCBS.
Hello, good morning. I'm curious about the targeting, and just give me an idea, like how close was everybody? We're talking about 33 operations in one city. I mean, that's pretty intense. And why has Antioch become the safe harbor in close?
Okay, so I'm going to turn that over to Lieutenant Fortner, and then we can get back to the second part of it.
Yes, ma'am. All of the locations were wound up not being in Antioch. That is a lot of locations, and for those amount of people that we identified with warrants for their arrest, that's about how many there were. There were upwards of 125, a few more that were wanted for felony violent crimes. They have a nexus to Antioch, so they either live here and committed a crime here, or they're from outside the city and they came to Antioch to commit a crime. So many of those folks that are associated with Antioch, some of them weren't in Antioch at the time. They might be laying their head down per se for any number of reasons, maybe family members or friends bring them here. But a lot of the locations were in Antioch. That's their residence of record. But several of the subjects were located outside the city of Antioch at the time and taken into custody where they were at.
And where were they? Like in the Bay Area, where were they taken into custody?
Mostly East Bay cities, but one was taken into custody in Clayton, another one in the city of Oakland, another one in San Francisco. Stockton and Tracy, California were in there as well. Thanks.
And I'll just add, I think it's important to note that Antioch's relative location to all these cities, San Francisco, Oakland, Richmond, Sacramento, Stockton, all these different cities, we literally sit at the crossroads of all these cities. And so you're going to have crime coming through here, and you're going to have, as Lieutenant Porter talked about, you also have individuals who have relationships with folks who end up being here for whatever reason. But I think the most important note is that we sit at the crossroads of all these large cities.
So, I'm sorry, I arrived a little bit late. How many people you said you arrested?
Was it 23?
23.
23 violent offenders.
Right, but you identified 125 targets?
Yes.
So what happened with the other 100?
It doesn't mean the work stops. We continue. And so I think that, and you can speak, because I don't want to get ahead of myself in case I say something I shouldn't say.
So, thank you. For the rest of the targets that weren't apprehended during the operation, like the mayor was alluding to, that work continues. So they still have active warrants in the system. It's just so important for us to leverage the strength and partnerships of these other agencies to pull together staffing and help. For the Antioch Police Department, we face challenges across the board in the East Bay as other police departments do. So, but with that, one of them being staffing. So these partnerships are critical and crucial for our police department to go out there and do this kind of work where there's a high volume of subjects out there who have warrants for their arrest, and we just don't have the staffing or necessarily the time to focus on every single one of them. But we do continue the work. Those warrants are still active in the system, and it's something our officers will follow up on later operations as the summer goes on, and or on our own as our special operations unit and their fugitive apprehension team continues the work. Thank you.
What was the time frame on this? What was the time frame on the 23 arrests?
Those 23 arrests took place over the course of 5 days from July 11th to the 15th. The active days were Monday through Thursday for that. So teams were actually in the field July 11th through the 14th. So Monday through Thursday.
You mentioned games. Is there a specific game? Can you share that with us? And just in general, how much safer is Antioch today than last week?
There were several different gang members from affiliated with gangs from as far as San Francisco all the way through to Stockton. At this time, I wouldn't want to mention those gangs specifically. A lot of these arrests that were made are open investigations. They're for homicides or assaults with deadly weapons where that case is still open. Those cases are still being investigated, and some suspects may even still be outstanding. So to go any further would be, releasing too much information when the investigation is complete.
And just another question, we're talking about how everybody was cooperating. The technology, is this new technology that you used, or?
It's technology that we've been using for about 2 years. It's a software program that sits on top of all of our other programs that we use in technology. This is one way we're leveraging technology to force multiply out there with the staffing issues that we have. So what it does is it takes all of the technology that we're using and it pulls that information to one point of access for the end user. So it saves a lot of time for the officers and the investigators and team members. It creates an operations plan for a common operating picture for a lot of the teams that are out there that are larger teams. We had 3 teams of 10, so 30 task force members out there that had access to the same information that was interactive and readily available. So they all had the same information, were referring to the same thing at different parts when it would facilitate or negate the use of a cell phone or even the radio.
So, you mentioned some of the crimes. Is there any one case that you can highlight, maybe a high-profile case of a suspect that you were looking for, something that you would like to highlight?
Yes, we're going to release a press release shortly after this conference. There'll be more information with that press release. One of the cases that is mentioned and that we can talk about is the arrest of Jeremiah Cowart. He was involved in a violent home invasion robbery in the city of Antioch on October 23rd of last year. I believe it was October 23rd. It was October of last year, where 4 suspects entered the residence of a citizen in the city of Antioch at night and held the family at gunpoint while they ransacked the residence. And all of those suspects have been taken into custody since, and Jeremiah Cowart was the last subject to be taken into custody during the operation. There'll be more information on that particular arrest on the press release.
One more question about the software. And so, can you explain us, for us that we don't understand your work, what was the bottleneck to make this happen, to make all these arrests happening, that software now is facilitated? What were the issues that you were facing that made your work difficult, and now that you have this software, it's easy?
Yes, this isn't something that's brand new to the Antioch Police Department. We've partnered with our federal partners before in the past, specifically for warrant operations or warrant sweep operations like we just conducted. But under the DOJ Public Safety Partnership, this was something that was specifically mentioned in bringing to the Antioch Police Department to partner with these federal agencies, not only in training to enhance our capability to protect our community, but with actual help, staffing help and operations, much like the ones that we just conducted. So that will continue as we move into the summer months. Specifically, give me just a moment. One of the things that we saw coming into the summer months, the monthly reports that we get from our crime analysts. Antioch's crime analysts research historical data and current crime trends to identify an uptick in aggravated assaults and violent criminal acts and firearm possession as it starts to get warmer, as we start to get into these summer months. So that, with our partnership, is the right recipe to get together and formulate an operation like this, given the time, as long as it's very focused and organized, which is what we took our time to do. We were planning this operation since May. It is COWART. Trying to get off.
You know, while it's good that you have a program in place to get these people, arrest them, put them in jail, is there anything new about your relationship with the DA that keeps them in jail?
The DA has always partnered with us. We have a high volume of calls for service, a high volume of cases taken, and a high volume of investigations that are packaged and filed at the district attorney's office. The district attorney's office has always remained committed to working with us. We have a close relationship, and they do file those cases that we put the time and the effort in, that the quality of the case that we take over to the district attorney's office is examined, and their filing procedures are theirs, but we have to talk to them about it. But we've had a close relationship with our district attorney's office, and they file the cases that we take over.
Yesterday, I worked on a story where there was 2 vehicles in Pittsburgh. Both vehicles had individuals in the vehicles that had machine guns that were shooting at each other. Is there anything new about what you're doing about reducing the amount of AR-15? Oh, better yet, how many AR-15s or machine guns did you take off the street by doing these arrests?
These 4 firearms were seized. One was a rifle, one was a sawed-off shotgun. Both of those firearms were illegal. To speak on the Pittsburgh incident, I don't have a lot of information regarding freeway violence, if it was freeway violence or what occurred there. We do have some plans coming up in the city of Antioch, some partnerships that will enhance, if we can further endeavor in those to keep the community safe and fight crime. But that's getting ahead of ourselves. I wouldn't be able to give you much information on the Pittsburgh incident and what's going on there.
In these arrests, did you find that you had an abundance of automatic or machine guns or AR-15s in these arrests that you made? Was there abundance?
In these particular incident, or in this particular operation, the firearms that were seized, we seized 4. But overall, coming into the summer months in the city of Antioch, we have seen a rise in the weapons that we seize on the streets or come into contact with subjects on the streets that are armed. And a particular problem that we're seeing are those firearms that are privately made, what they call privately made firearms or PMFs. They're unregulated and they're in the community and there's a lot of them and they're being trafficked. So that's an issue Bay Area wide, statewide, that's a national issue that we're trying to do our part to understand and get ahead of.
Okay, so before we wrap it up, I get the gist of your question, but judges put people in jail, in prison, not the DA. They file cases and they charge cases, so when I hear these types of questions, I get concerned that we're putting responsibility on the actors in our criminal justice system who don't necessarily oversee those areas. Whether someone leaves prison or county jail is a decision by those officials, and obviously influenced by the DA's office, but it's not necessarily a decision by the DA. Judges put people in prisons and jails once they're guilty of the crime. All right, any other questions? If not, we will wrap that up and thank everybody for joining us here today.
Are you gonna show us any weapons or merchandise or, I don't know, something I read in the press release that you were gonna show us something? No? No?
No, we could do something on once we wrap it up. Yes.
But for those crimes that are still under investigations, we can't use the we can't use the actual firearms that were seized. So maybe at some point in time when these investigations are closed, we can reference either pictures or show those firearms at a later date.
All right, thank you.